Hey everybody, it's Kyle with Purina here in Aiken, South Carolina. It's the beautiful Stableview Farm with Boyd Martin, and we're going to just run through sort of Boyd's last couple of years and what this year looks like for him. So thanks for joining us, and thank you very much, Boyd.
Thanks, Kyle. It's good to be here. It's the beginning of the year, mate. Everyone's excited and fired up, and you've got all these dreams and aspirations for the year, and usually in the first week of January it's all still possible, but you know, after that it becomes chaos.
Yeah, so at this time of year everybody's feeling like there's a great future, and then that first competition rolls around and you realize it's all work again. So you've just arrived down here. It's January for those of you who are watching this in the future, first part of January. When did your horses all get down here?
So basically, we've been up in Pennsylvania at our farm called Windura up in Cockenville throughout the year, and November and December's a relatively quiet a couple of months for our horses there. They're usually, you know, half the horses sort of have a vacation in November and half the horses have a vacation in December, and you know, we slowly build them up at the end of last year through the winter. It was a pretty mild winter up there, so it was I didn't lose too many staff quitting in the middle of the night, and we got a new indoor arena there, so that was really good. And yeah, we shipped the horses down here in the first week of January, and basically January we're spending the month getting the horses fit. I love January because there's not competitions, especially for the upper level horse, so it's really just this focus on fitness and schooling and education. So there's not this pressure of getting them ready for the show, and it's more training and improvement and slowly building their fitness up for the year.
Well, and it's nice because when you're doing it that time of year, you feel like you have the time to actually have that relationship to working the horse up, I find anyways.
Yeah, and it's you know, as the year goes on, it gets more and more, you know, just ongoing. You know, you're at one event one week, you come home that night, then you get on the next horses, get them ready for the next show, and it's you know, it's fast and furious, and it's sometimes you know, from going from show to show to show, it's quite exhausting, and it's hard to sort of put in that training and schooling that you know, I just love that part of it. So
yeah, well, and so I always have we have, you know, with our students and stuff, when they come in, the younger ones are always like, oh, I can't wait. I remember being at a show a couple of years ago and getting off a horse, and the next horse is standing there, and I get on it to go and ride, and this girl goes, oh, I can't wait till that's what I get to do. And I was like, enjoy the time that you get to ride that one or two horses, because your edge over someone like me is that I don't have the time to ride them the way I could if I had one or two horses. And so it's got to be even more chaotic for you that way, to try to get everything going with the time, with all the horses that you have to ride.
Yeah, I mean, you know, part of my personality loves chaos. You know, I think I thrive when it's busy and it's full on, and I'd have to say in the last probably 2 years my life settled down a lot, and you know, firstly my body started to fall apart a bit. You know, I think 5 years ago I was doing about 180 events a year, or 180 starts, which sounds glamorous, but like you said, it's just very, very, you know, hard on your body, and you get sick of it by the end of the year. And then, you know, I've sort of about 2 years ago tried to decide, well, what if we shrunk it down a little bit and just focused on, you know, the higher quality horses, and, you know, try to not ride more than 4 or 5 at a competition. But then if a horse needs a ride in the morning, or you want to walk a course a second time, you can do that. And to be honest, I enjoy it a little bit more. Obviously, as you get more successful, you've got to start sort of saying no to some things. And you know, at the beginning when I come to America, it was like take on all comers. You know, anyone's got a horse, donkey, mule, that, you know, whatever it was, I'd ride it. And now it's, you know, trying to pick out the nicer horses and the better competitions. But I'm still loving it. It's been an amazing. You know, I've been here since 2007, and it feels like it's, you know, it's gone quickly. So.
Yeah. And so this is the first year. You usually come down earlier, don't you? Is this?
Yeah, this year I've shrunk Aiken. Usually we're here for sort of 3 months, and this year I've cut it back to 2 months. it's expensive being away from home, to be honest, to rent a facility here and pay for the other place. And then my wife, she's going to Wellington, so you're sort of juggling 3 farms at once. We also built this new indoor riding arena in Pennsylvania, which means that if even on the worst weather day we can still train the horses. And I've got to say, Pennsylvania, like, I haven't found a better place in the world to get horses fit. The gallops there on the turf, and we've got a synthetic track as well to get the horses really, really fit for Tryon and for Kentucky 3-day event, or Badminton if we end up there. Like, to me, galloping up the hills in Pennsylvania is just it's just awesome, and the horses get strong and they stay sound, and also got a couple of kids up there too, which as you get older you realise that that's more important than anything. So
well, and it's a whole lot more rewarding on the day-to-day basis, for sure.
I start running out of clean clothes as well around February.
Right? Don't you just go and buy new ones, buy cheap stuff?
Waking up and there's 2-minute noodles next to you in the bed, things like that.
Time to go home. It's a terrible example for your kids.
Yeah.
And your kids are riding. I've seen pictures of you've got Remington back.
Yeah. We pulled Knox, our oldest kid's. He's got a 5-star 26-year-old horse that he's out riding around, and then Leo's, he's on a 12-hand pony. So that's it's been fun, actually. It's most afternoons we get out there, and it's not very formal riding. We're lucky to have shoes on or a saddle, and there's multiple falls, and it's good fun. It's obviously it's going to be impossible to start their riding career how I started in Australia. Like I keep thinking back of, I grew up on 2.5 acres and had no idea about much formal training, and my idea was fitness was racing the other kids down the main road, and our kids have got indoor riding arenas and gallop tracks and water jumps, and so I think they've got a very different upbringing with horses than I did.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you've built the facility you have in Pennsylvania, and I haven't seen the indoor in person, but I've seen pictures. I mean, what you're building there is world class, and I think that with that, it's got to be hard to actually build something like that and then leave it for a couple of months. And
saying that, part of me does. There is, I love coming here. I feel like in January or February I quit drinking alcohol. I changed my diet. I start getting very focused and getting fit and strong. There's no distractions here, and there is that part of being in Aiken of just 100% being dialed in and concentrating on your sport and your horses, and that is a challenge in Pennsylvania when you're trying to be a good parent, and there's your friends around the corner. There's a lot more distractions up there, so it's harder because the further on you get in this sport, the more directions you get tugged, and I think to be really, really good is you've got to keep the main thing, and the main thing for me is training horses.
Yeah, for sure. And so what is the plan this year? Obviously, you won the 5-star in Maryland last year, which was that was just awesome to watch, and you did a masterful job, I thought, in the show jumping, bringing out a round on that horse that I thought looked like it was a 50-50 on there with what you were able to do with her. Not 50-50 chance of you not jumping the clear, but you were as responsible for that round as the horse was, and it was quite, I thought, masterfully done. So what is the plan then going forward? Like, she's been very competitive. You've got a bunch of other horses. So you've got Kentucky, Badminton, the World Championships this year. What is the plan going?
I mean, I've got a bunch of good horses. I think deep down I'd love to win Kentucky. I've come close a couple of times, and I feel like I can do it. I think I've got a couple of horses that have got a chance, and a bit like you were talking about Maryland, like the stars do have to align. You've got to be in it. You've got to really have a crack at it, and there's got to be things have got to go your way a little bit on the day too. And saying that, I do feel like I've got the ability to win a couple of these big ones. So the next, window of my career is an exciting one. I feel like the horses that I'm getting hold of now are better than what I've had before, and I'm still thriving to become a better rider, and and I love competition, and so I think, on that day when the pressure's on and it's big and it's grueling and it's tough, I seem to thrive in that moment.
Right. And so with your, what is your string looking like for, are you going to badminton with something, or are you just, it's too early to make the decision?
Yeah, a little bit early. I mean, I've probably got On Cue and Sesta Leg for the 5 stars this spring, so we'll see if they. I'll definitely take some to Kentucky, maybe one of them to badminton, but we'll just see how it all evolves. And the next 6 weeks, I think, just building those 2 horses up and get a nice, easy run into them somewhere in February, and we'll make a plan from there.
Right. And do you? So with your horses, you're traveling back and forth and going to all the competitions in the areas that you're in. All the horses must have different sort of feed schedules with that. With the 2 upper level horses, do they eat the similar feeds, or are they different because they're obviously different horses?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, as we get them fitter and fitter, they need more energy. So I think in November and December, it's a lot of long, slow hacking and long, slow canters, and then as we come into February, the intensity of the training would lift, and it becomes harder for them, so then you need to adjust their feed for that. And I mean, the biggest luck I've had is actually just bringing in a Purina nutritionist, and I sort of just stick it with my head groom. They pull out every single horse, they evaluate it, they figure out what level it's competing, if it's a hot horse or a lazy horse or one that needs more weight, or and then they just formulate a diet for it, and I think the proof's in the pudding. The horses look fantastic, they feel good, and we go from there.
And they finish well. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So when your nutritionist comes in, you basically, I mean, you have to have. I remember the first time they came into my barn, and I had been feeding something to Parker for years. He'd done a bunch of 5 stars on it, and they came in, they're like, okay, well, we're going to switch to this. This is what we think we need to feed. And I was like, and it was senior active, and I was like, are you want me to switch something when I know something is working? And to have the faith to actually let someone do that for you is, I think, the key. And I don't mean just in the nutrition, but in everything. You have to have the people that you can actually be like, I trust them enough to know that the footing's done right or whatever. And so it's having that confidence. You've got obviously a good nutritionist that you can work with here.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like as you get established, you've got to find your best blacksmith, best vet, your training facilities, your feed that you're giving your horses, and you've got to make you've got to put faith in these people, the grooms, the assistant riders. You've got to find a team that you believe are coaches that will do a supreme job, that you 100% have your faith in. And I think with the feed, Purina has that. I mean, I went out to their research centre in St. Louis, and I mean, I was just blown away with the research and the amount of technology that they're using to formulate these feeds. Like I had it in my head that they sort of tip a bucket of oats in here and get some, it's so scientific. And and as soon as I went there and looked at what actually goes into making these feeds, I realised that this is my feed.
And the testing that they do is, I always like. When I went there the first time, I was like, why continue developing when you've already got, it's just got to be, it seemed cost prohibitive, but the reality is they just keep coming out with better and better stuff to work with. But I suppose that is the same for all of us, where you're riding at the top level and a top rider in that area, yet you're still pursuing this dream of greatness, of what the next bit of greatness is. And to be around that for the people that work for you has got to be really inspiring for them to see you. Like, I drove up this morning and you're setting your course for the day. You flew in last night from California, I believe, from a clinic. That if you can't be inspired by people like that, then you certainly, you might as well work at Subway. Nothing against the Subway workers, Jenny.
Yeah. I mean, I've been lucky looking back on my career. I feel like I've had a lot of those types of people in my life. Obviously, when I was a kid, my parents, my mum and dad were led by example. They're extremely hard-working and determined people. And then in Australia, as soon as I left school, I worked for a guy called Heath Ryan.
Yeah.
And he was borderline insane, but just exactly this type of, would work all day on zero sleep and fall off 3 horses at a competition and win on the 5th, and then coming here to America, obviously Philip Dutton's been just a wonderful friend and role model and mentor, and then beyond that, I mean, I feel like the coaches that I've interacted with a bit now, with Eric Devander and Peter Wild, and they're just high level people that they're fun to be around. They have a system of teaching that make you want to be better. And on the day at the competition, when it really matters and it really counts, they have to make decisions and give you advice that you have to believe, and if they tell you to do 5 strides down a line, you have to believe that's the right number, and you got to go for it. So.
Yeah. Well, and having someone on the outside, that perspective, I think is really important, because we create our own little world that we have to protect ourselves to stay within, but then because of that, we can create a bit of a false sense of reality around us. So it's important to have people that can.
I mean, if you got someone giving you the wrong advice, it's a disaster. And I see it a little bit. I mean, this world we're living in now with social media is a wonderful thing. It's entertaining. You can follow people you grew up with, but you can actually portray yourself being way better than you are. and I mean, I'm lucky that I feel like I know what I'm doing. And if you were starting out in sport, it's sometimes a little bit hard to join up with someone that is the right person, because there's so many positive looking, successful type people, right, that if you wanted to do some research and to really find the real deals, more challenging now than ever, because it's so much more than results these days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hear that some of the riders post videos of themselves doing yoga and things. It's very very unusual. But I mean, but you're absolutely right. Like there's a sense of trying to create this image, this persona, and it is important. But at the same time, there is a reality that, like you said about Heath being in that barn where you're watching the things unfold incorrectly, but that doesn't mean that you can't then also have success. And I think in our sport, that's hugely important. Failure is part of it.
Oh, no question. I feel like you learn more from failing. I think looking back at my career, some of the best results I've had has come not long after bombing out, and I think that failing and coming up short, can work in 2 different ways. It can make you reevaluate and look back at everything you did and change, or it can destroy a person too. It can weaken someone and they half sort of quit without quitting too. So you see people's true colours when things go wrong, and I feel like it's such a sport, Kyle, where it's highs and lows and ups and downs, and it's a long career too. We're not football players or baseball players that would be, I'd be long retired. We've got to find motivation and enjoyment, and it's over decades with horses. So I think there's the competition, there's this enjoyment for horses, the feeling of success of training animals, and I feel like the camaraderie with the guys that work with me, I truly enjoy too.
Yeah. Well, and it is great when you have people in the barn that are exceptionally motivated as well. Sure. I mean, because if you have the wrong group in the barn and you feel like you're pushing a rope, it does make you kind of question what you're doing as well. But so having the right people is so important all the way around. But just to inspire you, I saw a quote the other day from the oldest figure skater in American history that has been named to the Olympic team. Her last name's Bell. I think it's Michaela Bell. And she said age is just a number.
Right,
okay, she's proven it because she's 25 years old. And I read it and I was like, oh my God, you have no idea how long this goes on for in our sport. But I mean, it is. You change your motivation as you go along as well because of it.
Yeah, it takes so long. You know, I look back at my 25-year-old self and I thought I was pretty good and thought I knew what I was doing, and looking back to, you know, what I know now is like I didn't have a clue what I was doing. You know, I was riding around at the 5-star level, but just no really good understanding of getting horses fit and training them and keeping them sound, and just even little things of, like you said, keeping your staff inspired, and you know, there's balance between making money and still not focusing on that so much that you've got time and energy to improve yourself. It's a juggling act.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's not like anybody's signing $1 million contracts doing this. So there is a you have to support the family, you have to pay the mortgage, you have to pay the bills, but that isn't, I mean, clearly why any of us got into this. I got into it because I liked horses. I wanted to ride horses, and this was just an outlet for it. So,
yeah, I feel though in this era, though, I do feel like you can make more of a career out of eventing than any other time in history. You know, I feel like if you're a hard worker and you're willing to have a crack at, you know, different areas of the sport, you can make a good life for yourself. You know, I look at what we've achieved, Silver and I, it's remarkable. You know, and coming from another country and then coming and, you know, seeing what we've been able to do here, is if you're really determined and focused and driven and you're good, it is a good life. You know, it's hard work and there's a few broken bones along the way, but I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
No, and that one great thing in this sport is that when you do decide to intersect off the competing, there are other alternatives to stay involved and keep, you know, make a living, whereas a lot of sports don't offer that. There's a lot of fencing coaches out there that are not, you know, prospering, but they are very exceptional at what they do, or other sports as well. So, I mean, we are very fortunate that way, and then we get to spend, I mean, look where we are. I mean, This is a beautiful site, and they do an amazing job, and you're getting to spend the winter here, so at least there's
things.
Worse. Yeah, it could be a lot worse. But you could be in Ocala, which would be obviously a huge improvement for.
I'd have the Hawaiian shirt on. I'd be sitting by the pool drinking a margarita.
Yeah, I see that. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Boyd. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys all enjoyed the time here.